Ridge Forrester had been carefully planning this moment for weeks, maybe even months. The silk-lined box holding the engagement ring had lived in his coat pocket like a burning secret, a heavy reminder of what he thought he finally wanted. All the whispers, all the gossip swirling through the halls of Forrester Creations and ricocheting around Los Angeles, the assumptions that Ridge would inevitably find his way back to Brooke Logan, he had chosen to ignore them. He had made his decision. He wanted a life with Taylor Hayes. It was supposed to be simple. A private afternoon at the Cliff House. No big audience, no press. Just Ridge and Taylor, finally sealing the future that had eluded them for so long. They had danced around it for years, their history a mess of heartache and reunions, false starts and emotional landmines. But now he was sure. Ridge had arranged every detail, even the music that would play when he got down on one knee. Taylor was radiant, glowing with the kind of calm confidence that only came when a woman was finally getting what she deserved. And then the phone rang. Ridge's world cracked wide open in the space of a single vibration. The call came from the hospital. A nurse's voice, calm but urgent, told him that Brooke had been in an accident. Her car had lost control on Mulholland Drive. Brakes failed. She was found unconscious, barely breathing. They located Ridge's number in her emergency contact list, and he was the first name they dialed. Brooke Logan was in critical condition. Taylor's eyes narrowed the moment she heard the name. Ridge's entire demeanor shifted, shoulders stiffening, jaw locking. The ring box was still in his hand when he stood up, abruptly ending the proposal. Taylor watched the moment fall apart in real time. Her lips parted, but no words came. Ridge had already turned, rushing out the door without even offering an explanation. He didn't need to. Brooke was in trouble, and Ridge always ran to Brooke. By the time Ridge arrived at the hospital, the situation was already spiraling. Brooke had been rushed into trauma care. Her head injuries were severe. Internal bleeding. Multiple fractures. She hadn't regained consciousness since the crash. The doctors needed a decision, immediate surgical consent. With no one else available, Ridge was forced to sign the papers, his signature shaky as he processed the gravity of what was happening. Meanwhile, Taylor sat alone, staring at the ring Ridge had never slipped onto her finger. She was livid. Not just with Brooke, but with the entire situation. This was supposed to be her moment. She was finally supposed to become Ridge's wife, and once again, Brooke Logan had pulled him away. Even near death, Brooke still managed to consume Ridge's attention. Taylor felt the betrayal in her bones, her hands trembling with rage as she gripped the edge of the counter. She had seen this play out too many times before, Brooke in peril, Ridge abandoning everything and everyone to be at her side. Was this really just coincidence, or was Brooke always going to be the woman Ridge could never leave behind? As hours passed, doctors worked desperately to stabilize Brooke. They found signs that the brake line in her car had been deliberately severed. Police were now involved, investigating it not just as an accident, but as a potential crime. The implications hit hard. Someone may have tried to kill Brooke Logan. And if so, why? Who would benefit from her death? Ridge couldn't ignore the sinking suspicion gnawing at his gut. Was Brooke the target, or was someone trying to sabotage her from another angle? Was it personal? Professional? Or something darker? The hospital waiting room became Ridge's new prison. Taylor arrived later, furious, but trying to mask it with concern. She saw the way Ridge paced, the way his eyes constantly flicked toward the trauma unit doors. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. All he could think about was Brooke. When she was finally out of surgery, the news wasn't good. She remained in a coma, swelling on the brain. The doctors were cautiously pessimistic. The words "low chance of survival" landed like grenades in Ridge's chest. At Forrester Creations, the ripple effects were immediate. Hope Logan was inconsolable. Liam stepped in to keep the children away from the chaos. Katie and Donna rushed to the hospital, each facing the terrifying possibility that they might lose their sister. Eric, stunned, tried to hold the family together. The company practically froze in place, with Ridge unavailable and Brooke's absence leaving a gaping hole in every room she used to command. Speculation spread like wildfire. Who could have tampered with Brooke's car? Was it business-related, an angry competitor from the fashion world? Or something more sinister, more personal? Rumors swirled, fingers were pointed. Even within the family, people whispered. Could it have been Sheila? Could someone in their orbit have finally snapped? Taylor, despite her anger, tried to be supportive. But Ridge barely noticed. His mind never strayed far from Brooke. He began spending nights at the hospital, rarely leaving her bedside. He held her hand, whispered memories to her, begged her to wake up. He spoke about RJ, about the family they once had. He recounted old holidays, kisses under the mistletoe, fights they had, and how they always found their way back. Taylor saw all of it from a distance, and each passing day drove the dagger deeper into her chest. At one point, Ridge confided in Taylor. He admitted he wasn't sure what he would do if Brooke died. Not just emotionally, but spiritually. He said Brooke had been the one constant in a life full of contradictions. Taylor asked him the hard question, would you still have married me if that call never came? Ridge didn't answer. He couldn't. And that was answer enough. Meanwhile, police intensified their investigation. Surveillance footage showed someone loitering near Brooke's car the night before the crash. The image wasn't clear, but the shape, the stance, it sent a chill through Hope when she saw it. She recognized something familiar. Could it be someone close to them? Could it be Thomas? Or Deacon? Or, worse, could it be someone from Ridge's inner circle? The more questions that arose, the deeper the mystery ran. But all that mattered to Ridge was whether Brooke would live. Days turned into a week. Brooke remained unresponsive. Machines beeped. Her skin pale, tubes everywhere. And then, just as the doctors began to suggest letting nature take its course, Brooke moved. A twitch. A flicker of the eyelid. Her vitals shifted. Subtle, but real. Ridge was there when it happened. His hand in hers. He felt it. And in that moment, something inside him shattered and reformed. He realized he wasn't done with Brooke. He had never been done with Brooke. Whatever future he thought he had with Taylor had just evaporated. But things were far from over. If Brooke survived, she'd wake into a world of chaos. Someone had tried to kill her. Someone who might try again. And Ridge, torn between guilt and devotion, would have to face Taylor, who would never forgive him. The engagement was dead. The trust between them? Irreparably fractured. As Ridge leaned over Brooke, whispering promises she couldn't yet hear, the question loomed in his mind. Who hated Brooke Logan enough to want her dead, and how long before they tried again? And if Ridge was forced to choose once more between loyalty and love, survival and sacrifice, what would he give up next? Because in this world, nothing stays buried. And no one is ever truly safe. Ridge Forrester had always believed he could navigate the chaos. He'd weathered betrayals, heartbreaks, divorces, reconciliations, and countless feuds between the two women who had defined his life, Taylor Hayes and Brooke Logan. He thought he knew how to manage the storm. But nothing prepared him for this. Nothing prepared him for the finality. The last time he saw Brooke alive, she was barely conscious. Tubes ran from her body like tangled vines. Machines tracked every fragile heartbeat. He had whispered promises, half pleas and half regrets, as he held her hand and begged her to wake up. His heart had remained suspended in that sterile hospital room, waiting, hoping that the woman he had chased for decades would open her eyes one more time. But she never did. In the early hours of the morning, while Ridge dozed in the chair beside her, alarms blared. Nurses rushed in. The color drained from the room. And everything broke apart. Brooke Logan suffered a massive hemorrhage during recovery. The damage from the accident had been worse than anyone anticipated. The swelling in her brain had subsided, but the trauma to her internal organs had reached a critical point. The surgical team tried everything. They fought to stabilize her. They brought her back once. But her body gave out again. And this time, she didn't come back. When the doctor came out to speak to Ridge, he didn't need to hear the words. He saw it in the doctor's face. The slight shake of the head. The quiet apology. Ridge crumbled. It wasn't just grief, it was devastation. Rage. Confusion. Denial. The weight of 30 years collapsed on his chest. Brooke Logan, his Brooke, was gone. News spread through Los Angeles like a lightning strike. Forrester Creations shut down for the day. Hope fell to the floor when she heard the news. Katie screamed. Donna collapsed into Eric's arms. No one knew how to function. Brooke wasn't just a part of their family, she was the pulse of it. Her laughter, her boldness, her fire, it had been the center of every room she entered. And now, that center was gone. Taylor stood by quietly, watching Ridge unravel. Part of her had hoped, maybe foolishly, that this would bring them closer. That Ridge would lean on her. That they could grieve together. But Ridge wasn't grieving with anyone. He isolated himself. Locked himself in his office. Spent hours at Brooke's home. Sat on her side of the bed. Held her perfume bottle like it was a lifeline. His eyes never stopped searching, even though she was no longer anywhere to be found. The funeral was a media circus. Paparazzi lined the streets. Fans gathered outside the chapel. Everyone wanted to pay respects to the woman who had defined fashion, drama, and romance in LA. Ridge stood alone at the altar, delivering a eulogy that shattered even the coldest hearts. He spoke of her strength, her defiance, her mistakes, and her forgiveness. He said she was always the fire, and that the world would feel colder now that she was gone. Hope could barely look at him. She blamed Ridge. Blamed him for not being there sooner. For leaving Brooke emotionally adrift before the accident. For choosing Taylor again. Liam tried to hold her together, but nothing could fill the void. Meanwhile, the police investigation into the car crash intensified. The brake line had been sliced clean, sabotage, not accident. Someone wanted Brooke dead. Now that she was, the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a murder. Detective Sanchez returned to the case. He started with the usual suspects. Sheila Carter, recently released on parole, denied any involvement. Deacon Sharp, who had grown closer to Brooke in recent months, was interrogated. Ridge, in his grief, lashed out at anyone who even looked suspicious. Even Taylor found herself under scrutiny, not by police, but by those who remembered how often she'd clashed with Brooke. Old tensions resurfaced. Old grudges lit back up. But no one felt the loss more deeply than Ridge. Every photograph, every voicemail, every scrap of memory tormented him. He began watching old home videos, sitting alone in the dark with a glass of scotch in hand, replaying the life they'd had. He saw their wedding in Italy, their reunion on the beach, the day they welcomed RJ, the first time he told her he loved her. It was a montage of every moment he never appreciated enough until it was too late. Taylor tried to reach him. She came to his house, left messages, wrote letters. But Ridge couldn't respond. He was drowning. She wasn't the lifeboat. She was the reminder of the future he never really wanted, not now, not when Brooke's ghost haunted his every step. At Forrester Creations, leadership faltered. Ridge stopped coming to meetings. Eric tried to hold things together, but the absence of both Ridge and Brooke caused a leadership vacuum. Hope eventually stepped forward, vowing to honor her mother's legacy by keeping her fashion line alive. She became harder, colder, her grief sharpening into focus. She wouldn't let Brooke's death be in vain. RJ returned from abroad, stunned by the loss. He and Ridge couldn't even look each other in the eye at first. Too much pain. Too much unfinished business. But over time, Father and son began rebuilding. Not out of love, but necessity. Then came the bombshell. Surveillance footage from a gas station near Brooke's house was enhanced by police. It showed a figure crouching by her car the night before the accident. The build was male. The clothes familiar. And when they zoomed in just enough, they recognized him. Thomas Forrester. Ridge refused to believe it. But the footage didn't lie. When questioned, Thomas denied it. Said he was working late at the design office. Said he never went near Brooke's house. But inconsistencies emerged. A missing tower window. A tire tread at the scene that matched his vehicle. A voicemail Brooke had left for Hope the night before she died, saying she thought someone was watching her. Hope was shattered. She had defended Thomas for months. Believed he'd changed. But now she wasn't sure. No one was. And Ridge? He couldn't take any more betrayal. He lashed out. Cut Thomas off. Threw him out of Forrester Creations. Banished him from the family. But that left more questions than answers. Why would Thomas kill Brooke? Was it personal? Was it to keep Ridge with Taylor? Was it to eliminate the woman who always stood in his way? Or had Thomas been framed? The case remained open. The grief didn't end. And in the background of it all, Ridge began writing letters to Brooke every night, as if she could still hear him. He told her about the sunrises she would miss. About RJ's new designs. About how he wore the cologne she loved, hoping she'd walk into the room and wrinkle her nose at it like she used to. The world kept moving, but Ridge did not. Taylor eventually told him she couldn't wait any longer. That he had to live. That Brooke was gone. But Ridge just looked at her, hollowed out and quiet, and said, "She was the only woman I ever truly loved." And with that, the last of their connection broke. Now, Brooke Logan is gone. Not just from Ridge's life, but from the canvas of the world they built. Her death leaves behind a crater of questions, accusations, and pain. And as long as the truth behind her accident remains unsolved, no one in Los Angeles will ever feel safe again. Because someone killed Brooke Logan. And they're still out there.